All right, welcome to the Wolfpack Wellness Research web series, y'all. I am your host, Dr. Susie Cadell. As a reminder, this series is a collaboration between the University Wellness Advisory Committee, the NC State Libraries, and the NC State Wellness and Recreation team. We aim to discuss the wellness research happening across NC State's campus. For those of you joining us via Zoom Live, you can submit your questions to our speaker in the chat function, and we'll also have a time for Q&A at the end of the show. Today's guest is Dr. Robert Clark. Bob is a professor of economics and professor of management, innovation, and entrepreneurship in the Poole College of Management here at NC State. He's also a research associate at the National Bureau of Economic Research and a member of the Pension Research Council Advisory Board. Bob has conducted research examining retirement decisions, the choice between defined benefit and defined contributions, the impact of pension conversions to defined contribution and cash balance plans, the roles of information and communications on 401k contributions, and government regulation of pensions. He's completed a series of studies that examine employer-provided financial literacy and retirement planning programs and how these plans affect workers' decisions. That was a mouthful, but I do want to say thank you, Bob, for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
So as we begin, I'm just going to ask a very broad question. Can you tell us a little bit about you and your research lab and how you came to start working on particularly this last piece about the series of studies around employer-provided financial literacy and retirement planning programs?
Oh, well, throughout my entire career, which is now stretching for a few years, I've been looking at what I call the economics of individual and population aging. And so I look at how individuals over their lifetime make decisions about work and retirement, saving and consumption, accumulation, deaccumulation of assets. I also look at how companies age and evolve in terms of the age structure of their workforce and how they put together benefit plans in order to attract, retain, motivate, and ultimately retire quality workers. And then finally, I also look at how countries age and how that affects national policy on things like Social Security and Medicare and a variety of other issues. And so I put all those things together and they interact in a particular way. On the exact question that you asked about, I guess about 10 or 12 years ago now, I developed a project in conjunction with a grant from the Social Security Administration to try to partner with a series of large corporations to see what they were doing in the space for workers approaching retirement in terms of looking at what they did for their workers in terms of getting them ready for retirement. You know, companies have a vested interest in workers knowing the value of the benefit. Because if the workers don't value the benefit, then the company isn't getting full value for the dollars they're spending. In addition, many of these benefit plans have particular types of incentives that encourage people to make decisions at particular times. And so companies like for workers to know these things. In addition, workers, in order to make informed decisions, need to understand some basic economic and finance issues in terms of compounding of interest rates, the effect of inflation, and how that fits into these benefit plans that they have. And so I reached agreement with a number of companies. We then looked at what their programs they were doing for their older workers. And about this time, NC State started its program. So I don't know if you're aware that for people that are retirement eligible or getting close to being retirement eligible, NC State has a, I guess it's a day-long program about retirement benefits and some other things. So all of this was happening at a time where the population was getting older, the baby boomers were getting closer to retirement. And so this turned out to be an interesting and productive set of studies that I did.
So can I ask you, thank you for sharing all of that. So I heard a lot of different pieces of programs and things like that. And I'd really love to hear about what you found were the best practices for the employers, and if there are also best practices for employees.
Well, best practices from the employer standpoint is to have a good program, a good quality program. But people can do, companies can do different things. So some companies think they've got great HR staff and they think their workers trust them. So they do these programs with their own employees, their own HR people. Other companies think about this and they're worried about the worker might think the company is trying to influence them a particular way, so they can outsource these kinds of programs to consulting firms that can come in and do them. If they're done in-house, and I think the university, NC State also does this in terms of you can ask people from the various programs. So you can bring somebody in from Social Security to do that part of your program. But the best practices include having a program first, having a high quality program, making sure it's providing the right information about the employee benefits. One thing that employees often complain about after they get a good quality program is why didn't the company do this earlier on? And so, if you think about the life cycle of a worker for a company, then when they're first hired, companies all have these onboarding programs where they tell people about their employee benefits. And they're trying to get them to enroll and make the right decision so that they'll have fewer concerns about the outside world and can concentrate on their jobs. But then the company doesn't do much between those onboarding programs and these retirement programs. And so some refresher courses would be a good best practice, that periodically you provide something for workers in mid-career, not just at the beginning or the end. In terms of the benefit programs themselves, people are looking at a variety of programs in policies, including things such as automatic enrollment in retirement savings plans and some other things like that. But the main thing is to have a program, have a high quality program, teach the right stuff, get people to understand some key financial issues that are necessary in order for them to make the best decisions about their saving and retirement decisions and what kind of programs they're going to do to exit the labor force.
So I heard you say that you want them to have a high quality program and teach the right stuff is really what high quality means. Can you tell us what the right stuff is that we should know?
Well, I mean, certainly anybody that is employed needs to know what kind of pension plan they have. So depending on at the university, if you're a faculty member, you have a choice of your main pension or retirement plan, whether you want to do the state defined benefit plan or you would prefer to have what we call the optional retirement program, OPR. ORP, that is, letters, right? And that's the first choice that people have to make when they're enrolled, and it's a one-time choice. So you ought to listen up early on. And then after you made that choice, then the question is, the state mandates you be in one of those programs. The state mandates that you pay 6% of your salary for it. The state then puts in money to match that, basically. And if you're in the defined benefit program, you're pretty much on automatic pilot until you start thinking about retirement choices. And the state retirement plan, the defined benefit plan, is a good program. It's and most of the characteristics of that program are sort of in the middle of the distribution of other state retirement programs. So it's a good solid program. It's pretty well run. It's generally speaking pretty well funded. So not a lot of things to worry about there that many workers on the outside have to worry about. If you're in the optional plan, then you have some other decisions to make. You have to make a decision about how you're going to invest your money. But again, the university has done some pre-selecting of things for you, so there are only 2 providers, so you don't have a lot of work trying to figure out which one you're going to do, and they have a limited set of investment choices, and the university is sort of monitoring those. So the university is doing a pretty good job of providing a quality program. However, we also have the opportunity to set aside additional money for retirement and other things. And actually, there are multiple programs here. So if you're an employee at North Carolina State, you can invest in the state-managed 457 plan. You can invest in the state-managed 401k plan. And then we have also a 403b plan that's through Fidelity or TIA CREF. Those plans, there's no employer money, so you're just making a decision of, do you want to put in pre-tax dollars into an account, and then how do you invest that plan? That's a big choice, though. I mean, if you start contributing early, that could be a major source of retirement income on top of your defined benefit plan if you have that. So the optional or supplemental savings plans tend to be well managed by the providers that the state has chosen. But if you don't put any money in there, you don't have any money. And if you're in the defined benefit plan, you have an annuity payout when you retire, but you don't have a pile of money over here to do other fun things with. So you might want to consider that. Of course, it's important to know that the university historically, the state government really historically has provided retiree health insurance, but for new hires, that's gone away. But anybody who's been around here for like 5 or 6 years now, they would have subsidized health insurance in retirement, and that is a important benefit. But when you retire, the Medicare program becomes your primary beneficiary for your health insurance after you're 65. And the state plan becomes a supplemental plan to that. But if you retire before 65, then your retiree health plan is your health plan, which is a major benefit for those people that are covered by that plan.
So thank you for sharing all of that. So there's a lot of things that can be offered, and then how you explain this to your employees is really important. And it sounds to me though like there's still a lot of education that happens right when someone is retiring, but they no longer have the option of, I mean, they have an option, but it's no longer like the viable thing to be contributing to your retirement plan when you are retired, right?
Well, that's true. You're typically taking money out rather than putting money in. So
right. And so thinking about those ideal benefit plans or programs that employers are providing and explaining things, what are they explaining at that point of retirement?
well, so do people understand? So suppose you're in the defined benefit plan. Do people understand the benefit formula and how much money you're going to get? Well, the state will do that for you if you ask them for a quote on your money. But then how much money you get is going to change by whether you work another year or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to change depending on whether you choose one of their options. So the state defined benefit plan, referred to as teasers by some folks, will allow you to choose the option of a single life annuity, which means you get the maximum benefit, but if you die, your spouse or heirs get nothing after you die. Or you could choose a joint survivorship option, which means that after you die, there'll be a benefit for the remainder of the life of the person that you've designated, typically a spouse. And those are big choices. knowing what those options are, and there's some gradients of different types of things there that you can choose. So understanding those are certainly key to having a successful retirement. And if you are in the ORP, or if you have a supplemental savings plan, then the question is, how do you access that money? So that those, if you're in either of those kinds of plans, basically you have a pot of money, and you get to choose how you're going to use it. You could retire. You don't have to start drawing that right away. You could, if you're happy with your defined benefit plan, or if you don't have that, if you're going to leave the university and go somewhere else and work for a while, maybe you don't need that money right away. But you could also start drawing that down. And sometimes, at least the plan that the university has, that would allow you to annuitize that money. Many such plans in the private sector don't allow that option, but you could annuitize it, or certainly convert it into a monthly payment. Or you could just take it out when you want to. So you could take it out in big chunks or little chunks or whatever. And those are, again, are big choices. If you don't annuitize it, then the risk there is that you could draw down the money at a fast rate and not have any after 10 years or 15 years. So it's important that you understand that. It's important that people think a little bit about how long they expect to live. And some people have, some people live very long times, and some people live shorter times, but you ought to have some expectation around your expected life, but then you ought to understand that that just means that's what the average person of your age is going to live for another 10 or 15 years, but some people of your age are likely to live 30 more years. And how do you make this pot of money that you have last for 30 years is a difficult time sometimes. And some of us, after a few years, are going to be less capable and knowledgeable about making financial choices. So there are a variety of things to worry about as you approach those decisions, which will have a key aspect on the well-being that you have in retirement.
So I have a comment from one of our SHRA folks, and they said that they don't think they had a choice for ORP versus the state plan. I'm curious though, like, because even if they have that state plan in place, retirement plan in place, you talked a little bit more about you mentioned something about the 457 and the 403B and the 401k additions and things like that. Is there anything unique that someone who is in that state plan might need to consider? I know you said they can keep saving additional, but something that might be unique that our staff might have to consider, that's not something that.
I think the cutoff is that there's some designation of basically the ORP is primarily limited to faculty, broadly defined. Mm-hmm. So if you were a staff person, you wouldn't have had that choice. But the staff does have the choice of contributing to the state managed 401k or 457 plan. And some people might feel that they're constrained, that they need to spend their money now while they're working for a variety of reasons called food and rent. So you may not have that extra money, but if you do, or if you're planning ahead and trying to save so that you'll have a better retirement, those are plans that are managed by the state government out of the state treasurer's office. It's been a while since I looked at this. They used to be managed by Prudential. I don't know if that's still true or not, but the state oversees that. The university does not put any money into that on behalf of the worker. So most people think about, if you're in a 401k plan for a company, the company's going to put a matching employer contribution. The state does not do that. But it's an efficient way of saving. They take it right out of your paycheck and it goes in, and you get to decide how it's invested, and then you can have that money on top of your defined benefit plan. And so, this is certainly something that all staff members ought to consider. Whether that's right for them depends on their personal situations.
And thank you. That was very helpful clarification. So I have two more little questions, but if other people have questions, please go ahead and put it in the chat box and we'll kind of include those in things. But my first question, you kind of touched on it when you were introducing the concept, but you look at it, or at least I think you look at this research from the point of the employer and the benefits that the employer might get from their employees being financially knowledgeable, literate. Did I get that correct?
So there are two parties in this employment relationship. And hopefully what they're doing is they're coming together and having a mutually advantageous event. So, from the employee's perspective, if they learn more about financial issues, if they become more financial literate, they're going to make better financial decisions. Where can they get that information? Since we spend a lot of time at our jobs, that's one of the best places to do that. In most cases, the programs that the employer is providing are done at the workplace. They're done during your work day, and the company or the university doesn't charge you for going to the programs. So I would say that's advantageous to the employee, but it also is good for the university or the employer for their workers to know more about what's going on.
And so what are the benefits though of to the employer? You said that it's more advantageous for them to know what the benefits are, but why is that so? What are the, generally speaking, other than they've paid for some of these benefits to happen and they want people to use it wisely, there has to be other benefits to this, right?
Well, the university or the employer, more broadly defined, would say that it's in their interest to have some orderly retirement flows. And one of the benefits for them is that when their workers approach a time when maybe the worker is ready to retire, but if they don't think they can retire for financial reasons, maybe they're working longer than is in the worker's interest or the company's interest if there are changes in their physical abilities or their productivity on the job. So it's advantageous to the company if the workers are able to make informed decisions and not have to worry about, well, gee, I can't retire now, but to be able to do that in a timely manner.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's very helpful. This question says, I think EEs should review the options prior to determining which plan to enroll in by using the resources or talking with investment advisors at no cost to the EE. Can you make a comment on that?
It's always in somebody's best interest to do some research before they make big decisions. So yes, I would agree with that. There's some relatively short period of time that you have to make this decision when you're employed by the university. I forget whether that's 30 days or something longer than that, but it's fairly quickly. But an employee trying to make this decision, again, you'd have to be eligible to make this decision. But someone should, talk to their colleagues who have already made this decision and they're either happy with it or unhappy with it. And then we have professionals in our HR staff that can do this. And there's also the people that, are with TIA or Fidelity, the vendors for the ORP that would be happy to talk with a person as well. And, you just have to remember that whether you're talking to the state folks or to ORP vendors, they're going to tell you the good things about their program, and you have to make your own choice about whether the fit from those advantages are right for you.
Mhm.
I mean, from a faculty member standpoint, if you are looking at this choice, the big difference is that if you move around from one university to another, the defined contribution plan, the ORP, is more transferable. You can take that money with you easier than with the state defined benefit plan. However, if you stay here for a long time, the state plan is good, and it provides a benefit that is less risky in terms of financial ups and downs. So if you were thinking about retiring this year, a couple of years ago, you would have a lot less money today than you thought you were going to have if you were in the defined contribution plan. If you're in the defined benefit plan, it hadn't really affected your retirement benefit at all, other than, of course, we hadn't had a lot of raises recently that you might have been thinking on as well. So it's the different trajectories of your earnings is one issue that comes into play. The economic volatility of the stock market or other investment is a big issue that comes into play. And then whether or not you think you're going to be at NC State for a long time or a short time matters as well. It also matters that, when do you come in? So for example, if you're right out of graduate school and you're coming in, you don't know a lot about how your career is going to plan out. Your faculty may decide you're not worthy of staying at NC State, and you'd be let go after a while. Or maybe you're going to be a star, and other universities going to be clamoring to hire you, and you would leave, and the outcome on your pension is about the same in those two cases. The rest of your life is different, but if you come in as a full professor and you're already tenured and you only have another 10 years, again, that would affect the choice that you would make in terms of which pension plan you might want to choose.
Thank you. That was very helpful. So we have just a couple minutes left. I have one or a couple little bit more comments here, is that the additional benefit besides the peace of mind for the employees that retirement will happen is employers get a tax benefit for pre-taxed benefits by employees. So I'm not really sure all of those details. And then people have 60 days to enroll once they're onboarded. And when do you plan to leave the state government? Because if you have 5 years of service, you can take the funds from the ORP.
So the last comment, if you leave state government before you're vested in the defined benefit plan, the state will generously give you your money back with a little interest, but they won't give you any employer money. And if you stay a few more years and you're in the defined contribution plan, you usually get both pots of money, your money and the employer money. Again, there's some vesting issues involved with that as well.
Yeah. So last words of parting wisdoms from your research and what you've seen over the years for anyone who might be listening.
Well, since we're all educators, I would say that financial education is important. Knowing what your choices are is important. And you put those two things together and you'll be more likely to make good saving and retirement decisions.
Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today about financial literacy and retirement planning. For those of you who are coming next month, we will be talking to Dr. Tracy Ryder from the Department of Agriculture and the College of Design, and she'll be discussing the built environment and sustainability and health. You can find more about this show on the Wolfpack Wellness web series website. That's a lot of W's. And I am your host, Dr. Susie Goodell. Until next time, be well.